So people have been asking for this one forever. And I kind of held off because I was a bit afraid to do this. Because no matter what I do, people are going to post a bunch of lore in the comments section. Say, Argent, you missed this. Argent, you missed that. What about this? What about that? And I get it. It is... The Warhammer 40k lore is really, really extensive. There's so much stuff to cover. So I think I'm going to focus on it from a political science perspective, because that's what this series is called, Sci-Fi Pol Sci. I'm not going to try and cover the history of the Empire, or try... This is not supposed to be in any way exhaustive. There's a certain point I'm going to try to make here. So what can you say about the Empire of Man? From my perspective, I think the thing that's the most interesting part of it is the Empire of Man is an Orwellian state. It is totalitarianism taken to its logical extreme. It's all kinds of totalitarianism. It has aspects of fascist totalitarianism, theocratic totalitarianism, communistic totalitarianism. It is the most repressive government pretty much possible. It's in many ways, because of their ability to have telepathy, as repressive as North Korea. And the thing that is fascinating about it is this is all 100% justified. And if they didn't have this extreme repression, the world would be worse, somehow. The only slivers or scraps of an ordinary life people are able to live within the Empire of Man, and the 40k universe in particular, is with extreme repression, mental and political repression. Like I said, if this did not exist, there would be no civilization. So let's kind of look at the structure a bit of the Empire of Man. So the Empire of Man has undergone a lot of revisions over time. You had the Dark Age of technology prior to the Emperors assuming direct control, in which humanity went through a very progressive phase, I suppose you could say, that they conquered much of the galaxy using technology. And eventually what happened with that is it led to a complete collapse of the society when AI went amok and all the various trade routes and social systems broke down, and you had millennia of internal warfare. Whole planets starved, and they developed their own cultures and own languages, forgetting about the other planets. It was a catastrophe of unrivaled proportions. So if the modern Imperium seems backward, unwilling to embrace new ideas, and unwilling to do technological research, there's a good reason for that, because the last time they became an entirely scientific society, it was an unmitigated disaster, and especially now with all the enemies the Imperium is facing, they can't afford that. So they have to be very conservative. They have to be arch-conservative with their development of technology, and that's why I think to a large extent they're so reliant on scavenging from the past and finding stuff that historically didn't lead to the collapse of their civilization. So that's kind of the first aspect, that technological development is severely limited or almost stalled, but there's a very good reason for that. It's not just purely about control. There is a very legitimate fear there. And it's a bit like what we have in Mass Effect, where there's a large fear of AI there as well. Because the last time AI was created, it made the Geth. And the thing that's so terrifying about AI is, whereas a human takes, 14 to 16 years before they can become viable as a soldier, and then it takes years to decades for them to become an elite and reach their full fighting potential, machines require no training. You just mass build them and send them out. You can build a machine just by copying an existing machine mind that'll have all the experience and all the skills of that other machine. And machines can make more machines, it can make more machines, and they grow exponentially. So in a sense, they're the greatest possible threat that humanity could face. So we have that as the first aspect. The very harsh restrictions on technology are based on past experience and based on an unwillingness to go down that road again. Plus, like I said, if they did go down that road again, and it led to even moderate disruptions to their ability to fight, the Imperium would rapidly get devoured by all the jackals around them. So we have that aspect. So the next aspect maybe we'll look at is the repression of religion. Now, prior to the Emperor's death, religion was pretty much banned within the Imperium. The Emperor tried to impose a secular rationalist ideology on the Empire. He gradually either eliminated or repressed the various religious beliefs and tried to make people as materialistic as possible. Now, was this done necessarily for fedora reasons? Was this done necessarily because the Emperor hated these things? Maybe to a certain extent, but the primary motivation for getting rid of religion was the Emperor believed that the Chaos Gods got stronger when people believed in them, which is not without truth. But that if people ceased to believe in the supernatural, it would dramatically reduce the power of demons in the warp. And we've seen how all-powerful the demons in the warp are. They destroyed the galactic spanning civilization of the Eldar. And the Emperor saw this, and he's like, oh my god, we have to just get rid of this. We have to make it so people just don't believe in them, and with the Eldar almost extinct, we'll starve them from belief and we'll marginalize them. Unfortunately, this didn't really work out, as the Chaos Gods are not fed by solely belief, but also by emotion. So hatred, greed, lust, etc. makes them stronger regardless of what the person believes about the supernatural. Evil people give strength to the Chaos Gods. It doesn't really matter what metaphysical things they believe. So kind of the repression of religious belief was once again, I think, justified. I may not like it, I may not agree with it, I may not have done the same thing, but if you look at it, you can't really look at it and say, oh, the Emperor or the older Imperium of Man was just doing this for, like I said, fedora spinning reasons. The severe religious repression makes sense within the context that we're looking at. Which brings us to the modern day, where the Empire, to a large extent, is a theocracy, where the worship of the Emperor of Man is enforced throughout the Empire, much of the galaxy, and in which any deviation from that or other ideas are repressed. Now, on one stand, a lot of people probably would shirk from this, particularly in a modern era, the idea of this all-consuming religious belief. But once again, if we take a step back and we look at it in the context of the 40k universe, the one of probably the supreme irony is the Emperor really didn't want to be worshipped as a god, but because countless Terrans believe in him and worship him so desperately and so fervently, he's become, in my opinion at least, as strong, if not stronger, than the Chaos Gods. Because on any planet in the Emperor, pretty much every family will have a shrine to the Emperor, and they place all their faith in him, which has made him, if not a god before, a true god now. Also, because of his massive presence in the warp, devoting yourself to him and regimenting your thought is an excellent protection from the forces of chaos. The stronger your faith in the Emperor, the more you kind of regiment your thought and kind of isolate your mind from heresy, the harder it is for chaos to corrupt you. And chaos is an absolutely terrifying and cataclysmic force. Chaos made, what was it, a third or a half of the Space Marine Legion's defect. We've seen in the games and some of the stories that even a couple people falling to chaos can lead to worlds getting destroyed and entire just pieces of the Empire falling apart, and as demons just come out. I think they can, with some psychers, they can open a portal to the warp, and just legions of demons and Chaos Space Marines can just emanate from it. But worshipping the Emperor gives you protection from this. It also makes the Emperor stronger, and the Emperor in the warp can bestow gifts upon Space Marines and his priests. Gifts that are very useful in fighting the forces of chaos. And as part of this, the other issue is because the Emperor is worshipped so much and he has such a powerful signature in the warp, this can be used as a safe beacon for the guild navigators to travel instantaneously using full space technology. I don't know the exact mechanics of it, but if the Emperor was not as powerful as he was, once again, humanity, at least at the moment, would not be able to travel through the warp using full space technology. I think they were originally able to do it without him, but because of the creation of Chaos Gods and the warp just becoming entirely evil, they basically need him at this point in time. Once again, the other kind of horrific thing is they sacrifice thousands of psychers to him a day. Once again, this is just a very difficult choice they have to face. Is it worth it to sacrifice a couple thousand innocents a day to keep the Emperor alive so he can keep protecting the Imperium so they can keep the full space drives working? Or should we take the moral high road and not do that and condemn... I know it's probably trillions of people within the Imperium to death and destruction. Is that really a just and moral thing to do? And we see this thread as we talk about these various horrific things the Imperium has had to do, is they are justifiable. Now, you can say the end stopped justifying the means at a certain point in time, but I think you have to admit that the decisions that they made and the choices that led to them are by and large very logical. You can understand where they came from and why they decided to make them. Political repression and economic repression. As far as I can determine, the Empire is largely a command economy ruled over by a massive, inefficient, corrupt bureaucracy in which basically all the resources of the Empire are used for military purposes, be it the Imperial Guard or the Space Marines. They have this very primitive feudal economy in which entire worlds exist for producing one product. So they have this very interconnected economy, and obviously very similar to what we see in Foundation, and which Trantor, the capital of the Galactic Empire, had 30 agricultural worlds whose sole purpose was to feed the bureaucracy on Trantor, which governed tens of thousands of worlds. The Empire is very similar. People often will exist in virtual slavery. It's certainly very feudal. Most of the people are serfs, and them and all their ancestors and all of their descendants will be doing the same job. Now, once again, as cruel and as terrible as this is, the Empire needs its military machine. This isn't North Korea. This isn't the Soviet Union. This isn't just kind of a build-up of military might for the purpose of a build-up. It's not the reason they built the military in the 1984 universe to destroy excessive production created by an industrial society. No, they need every bullet. They need every bolter. They need every ship. Like, let's look at the enemies they face. They face the orcs, who are this self-reproducing fungal infection that's almost impossible to remove from a planet. You have the Dark Eldar, who can teleport anywhere, strike anywhere. You also have the Tyranids, this massive galactic-sized swarm that just eats world after world. You have Chaos. Once again, if even a couple people fall to Chaos, they can summon this huge army of demons that will take entire chapters to put down. So you have all these just different, huge threats that face the Imperium, and to just keep them at bay, literally every bit of wealth produced by their society just has to be funneled into the military. So once again, as miserable as the lives of most of the people are, just constantly slaving away for the military machine, the fact that they're able to have families, the fact that they're able to enjoy anything resembling a normal life is there only because of the war economy. So while there may be no political, religious, or economic freedom, and while life may often be horrific, all of these things are 100% necessary, because any breakdown or any loosening up of any of these things would make humanity die overnight and would condemn people literally to hell on Earth, to being devoured by demons, raped by orcs, Tyranids eating your planet, etc. And the Empire has to undertake extremely brutal and harsh measures, like blowing entire planets up, because once again, chaos is such a threat. The various enemies that the Empire comes across are so devastating and so easy to spread, they really have no choice in the matter. And now we have the Necrons re-emerging, and things just kind of continue to get worse and worse. And at this point in time, barring the rebirth of the Empire, there's not really a lot the Terrans can do, except continue to fight on more or less they were. So it's the irony. In the other totalitarian society we have that where people live relatively normal lives is the Tau Empire, which once again has complete restrictive thought control. Everyone has a very specific purpose. It's very hierarchical. There's virtually no personal freedom, and they have a command kind of socialist economy. At the same time, though, the Tau's communism and caste system is a lot nicer than living under most of the other peoples in the universe. If anything, it's probably nicer than living in the Empire of Man. So the only societies in Warhammer 40k that we can begin to call successful societies are those that resemble the nations of 1984, and those are nice by comparison to the others. So I think that's largely what I wanted to cover about the Empire of Man, is that it is this very terrifying government form, but one that is necessary and is in a lot of cases laudable. And the discipline required to keep it going, especially with the corruption, inefficiency, and reluctance to go back to high technology, is very impressive. So perhaps one day the Emperor will be reborn and he will defeat the Chaos Gods and re-lead humanity to the glorious state it had before his fall, and perhaps he won't. We don't really know. But for the moment, the Empire of Man will continue as it has for millennia, fighting vainly against an increasingly desperate situation, just increasing its repressive characteristics indefinitely. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I didn't really cover that much, but those are just my thoughts on the Empire of Man, and I'll talk to you guys later.